on a creative endeavor often means going back to basics. And as I got started on the project that I'm working on now, I knew I wanted to take a look at women who owned businesses up to and through the American Revolution. I also knew I wanted to look at women who owned taverns. So the first question I had to answer was, did women actually own taverns? Because if they didn't, this was going to be a very short creative project.
It turns out women tavern keepers were fairly common in colonial America. Owning or managing taverns allowed women not only to engage in society, but also to add a revenue stream to the family budget. Running a tavern out of her home would allow a woman to simultaneously earn money while also raising her children and caring for her family. An ambitious tavern keeper could sling pints of cider, manage staff, and that would be both paid and enslaved, and oversee a variety of domestic responsibilities like growing gardens and cooking, sewing, mending, making soaps, and dipping candles.
18th century taverns weren't always the violent, glorified brothels that are often portrayed on TV or in the movies. They served a variety of purposes, from giving travelers a place to sleep and to eat, to giving courts a place to meet.
Williamsburg locals used King's Arms Tavern as a meeting place for lawyers, merchants, ship captains, and anyone looking to get news from abroad. Thomas Jefferson likely would have been found there often between 1768 and 1769. Between 1762 and 1774, Christiana Campbell's Tavern, also in Williamsburg, provided a venue for political meetings where George Washington would stop in to discuss and debate a variety of imperial policies. Anyone have thoughts on the Townsend duties? Are we cool with the Stamp Act? Entertainment and atmosphere were important components of a successful tavern. Taverns offered access to large rooms, which were perfect for meetings of gentlemen's social clubs. And Shields Tavern in Williamsburg was the site of an English-style ball in 1751. And Catherine Jennings kept, quote, an exceeding good billiard table in her Annapolis Tavern. Jane Vogue decorated the King's Arms Tavern with some lovely paintings. But it wasn't just parties and politics. Tavern owners sold and rented horses and riding equipment, and vendors found places to sell their wares, from jewelry to ribbons to ceramics and more. If you wanted to learn, a tavern could provide a perfect classroom. In Boston, a local instructor taught geometry. And in Williamsburg, an instructor at Raleigh Tavern offered classes in the art of fencing, dancing, and the French tongue.
During the 17th and 18th century, roughly 2/3 of taverns in colonial America were owned and managed by middling women and prominent widows. Some men actually were given tavern licenses, but it was understood that their wife or their daughter would actually run the enterprise. It has been quite a relief to find out that there were so many women in colonial America keeping people lodged, fed, and sauced during the 18th century. And I'm finding incredible stories about the women who owned taverns and the people who frequented them. Thankfully, the creative project can continue.